In today's lecture, we will see how to attempt the pie chart type of report in academic task 1 writing. Let us start with the question. The pie charts below show the average household expenditures in Japan and Malaysia in year 2010. As you can see, all the data is given in percentage. For each and every pie chart task, the data will always be in percentage. Now, after seeing the question, you should spend at least 2 minutes to analyze the data and compare. After doing it, we will recall the format. So let us see the format. Firstly, in introduction, you will paraphrase the prompt and mention how the data is calculated. After doing it, you will leave the space of one line and write the overall. In overall, you will mention the overall trend of the graph. Here, you will mention the overall trend of the pie chart. After that, mention the minimum and maximum data which is given in the question. After writing the overall, you leave the space of one line and start writing the body paragraphs. Make sure that you are making 2 body paragraphs. And in body paragraphs, describe the main trends that you can see in the pie charts. And make sure that you are making the comparisons wherever it is possible. Lastly, note that pie chart is always in percentage. So you can use percentage and proportion vocabulary. Now let us start writing the task. Starting with the introduction, the pie charts show the proportion of money spent on various household expenses in Malaysia and Japan in 2010. Here you can see that instead of writing percentage, I have written proportion, which is totally fine. Now let us write the overall. Make sure that you are starting the overall by writing the overall linker. Overall, the data indicates that in both cases, food, housing and other goods and services were the main expenses, but in Japan, transport and other goods and services took up a higher proportion of total expenditure than in Malaysia. Here you can see that I have mentioned the main expenses and I have compared the data of Japan with the Malaysia in the other half of the overall. Now let us write the body paragraphs. For body paragraph number 1, it can be seen that in Malaysia, the greatest proportion of expenditure, 34%, was on housing, while in Japan, housing accounted for just 21% of the total. In contrast, in Japan, the greatest single expense was other goods and services at 29% compared with 26% in Malaysia. In this body paragraph, you can see that in first line we have compared the data of Malaysia and Japan for housing. In the second line, you can see that the data of Japan is higher for goods and services as compared to Malaysia. And I have connected the information by using the linker in contrast and while. Now let us see the body paragraph number 2. Food came in second place in Japan at 24%, while in Malaysia the actual proportion was higher, 27%. In Japan, another major expense was transport at 20%, but it was much lower in Malaysia, 10%. In both countries, the smallest percentage of expenditure was on healthcare. In this body paragraph, you can see that there is not much to compare. So we have mentioned the data for each and every detail. We have used the conjunctions such as while, but, and so on. So this is how you will write a task which is of pie chart type. Now let us see the useful language for attempting this type of task. The vocabulary such as a large number of people, over a quarter of people, a small minority, a significant number of people, less than a fifth, and so on can be used. And as I said before, you can mention the proportion, so less than a fifth can be used for mentioning a data which is lower than 20%. To understand it clearly, let us see some examples for mentioning non-exact percentage. For mentioning 77%, we can write just over 3/4 or approximately 3/4. For mentioning around 49%, we can write just under a half or nearly a half. And lastly, to mention a data which is near to 32%, we can write almost a third, and so on. So this brings us to the last part of this lecture, that is tips for effective performance in this type of task. Firstly, plan before you write. That is, when you are seeing the question for the first time, you have to select which data I'll be using to compare and write. Secondly, use proportion and percentage related vocabulary. Thirdly, don't include below in your paraphrase, because in the question the word below will be written and there would be an image. But when you are attempting the task, you are not having the image below. So you will never write below in the introduction. Next, use linkers accurately, because if you use the wrong linkers, you will be connecting the information in the wrong manner, and this way you can lose the score. Next, do not give your opinion. As you are writing a report, you are never asked for your opinion. So make sure you are not mentioning your point of view. Do not forget to check your task once it is finished. And lastly, refer the sample task. When you refer the sample task, you get to know the different ways of mentioning the data. You can get to know how to use the linkers to connect the information and so on. I hope this will help you to improve your pie chart writing skills. If you have any queries related to whatever is discussed in the class, please write in the comment section. We will give response as soon as we can. I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.